Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited. I have the wonderful Conor Spacey here. I'm Tracie Daly, under the guise of Ballymaloe Foods as Development Chef, and I get to talk to this amazing guy about the importance of sourcing locally, which is a huge part of who you are, as well as everything else that we're actually going to cover, because what we have to say today is monumental, I think. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Anyway, first things first, which I love because this evokes your history and your past. What's your greatest food memory?
My greatest, this is always funny because it brings back a lot of memories. I was about 8 years of age at home, and I always enjoy being in the kitchen because when you're that age, you know, everything revolves around food. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So the kitchen's like the heart of the home, and you know, from morning when you come home from school to getting dinner to whatever, it's always around food. And I remember thinking, right, I'm going to surprise my parents. It would have been a Friday night when the Late Show used to be on a Friday night back in Gay Burns days, and I thought I'm going to surprise them now. And I picked out one of my mother's cookbooks to make. I thought I'm going to make some rock buns, and I started to make rock. And now I know where the name rock bun came from, because I came in all delighted myself. I made these from scratch, worked away through it, and trying to read the recipe and follow the recipe, and displayed them on this lovely platter. And surprised my parents going to walk in to the sitting room when they're sitting there watching the Late Show and getting these rock buns. And I remember my dad and my mum trying to bite into them, and they couldn't. But they were still going, "This is the best we've ever had. Aww. Thanks so much. I can't believe you made these from scratch," and all that. And then they were trying to hide them because they couldn't eat them. So it's not your typical fondest food memory.
Yeah.
But it was the interest. I always had that interest around food. I was always amazed how you could have these everyday sort of ingredients, you know what I mean? And you can turn it into this. So it was the how-to, the science behind it.
Yeah.
Even at that age, I just, anything to do with food, it was the fascination, yeah. It always was something I was like, this is cool. I can take these 3-4 ingredients and make it into something like that. You couldn't eat them at that stage. Yeah. I learned how to improve. But I was aged.
I well believe it.
I was aged.
But you know what's really important out of that is that if we don't encourage them young, the future of our food system is completely broken. So
Absolutely.
Isn't it beautiful what your parents did for you that day?
Yeah.
Or that night?
Yeah.
Just as the Late Show was about to kick off.
And it was only when I got older I realised that actually they were so bad they couldn't eat them.
Yeah.
You know, but at that age I was, you know,
none the
this
wiser.
was great, they were happy. Yeah. But I make them again tomorrow night, no, it's okay, thanks.
How fabulous. I love it.
Yeah,
that's so
memory.
Important.
Yeah.
Parents to get you into the kitchen at that age.
Yeah.
That's going to change the future.
Yeah, I think it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, big time.
Agreed. 3 kitchen ingredients you couldn't live without. Tough one.
That is a tough one. Cheese. I love cheese.
Yeah.
So any kind of cheese.
Yeah.
I don't care, like soft, strong, you know, mature. I just love cheese. Cheese is my go-to thing throughout the day, every day. So cheese is always one. I'd have to say garlic.
Yeah.
Because I use it in so much, no matter what kind of cooking you're doing, you know, whether it be, you know, like Asian influence, whether it's fast food, whether it's classical, like garlic plays a huge part in flavour profiles and building flavours. Elevation, yeah. So garlic would be one. I'm trying to think, this sounds a bit whatever, but a good quality salt, like a proper salt. Yeah. You know, not a processed salt, like a good sea salt. To me elevates a dish so much. You know what I mean? So I think salt, garlic, definitely, and cheese.
Love it. Even the salt, the texture, isn't that it's another layer again?
Yeah, on the food, even to finish food with as well.
Yes. Yeah,
when you just about to eat it, sprinkle it on top. It's that whole crunch and texture. And elevates food. Yeah, actually, no, I think about it, because there's so many ingredients I love, but they're my 3 personal favourites.
Desert island. It's an interesting question. Island. Can you answer it? Don't make me answer it. It's not about me today, it's about you, Conor. As a chef, do you think there is enough education in place today for businesses on creating sustainable menus?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That is a great question. And no, I don't think there is enough.
Yeah.
I think where we get bogged down, that's the correct term I'm trying to think of in my head. When it comes to sustainable menus and how to produce a sustainable menu, it can be very, very confusing as to what's right and what's wrong. Because you can try one thing that can have a different effect be it, what are you measuring it on? Like, what are you measuring sustainability on? Is it on carbon footprint? Is it on climate change? Is it on, the food itself and better growing, systems, regenerative farming? There's so many different avenues to sustainability.
Yes.
It really depends what you're passionate about. It could be all, but it might be climate change, and that would your focus be very different to someone who's more focused on regenerative farming or better farming, for better soil and will produce better food and so on. So I think it really depends on what you're focused on first of all, and if it's all, which is even better. There's not enough out there, and I think what I find the most worrying thing is as we work, food is global. Like, local food is where it's at, but food is also global. Food will always travel forever. If you think of food didn't travel, in Ireland you wouldn't have coffee, tea, spices, chocolate, exotic fruits. Exactly. So food will always travel. Local is so important, but we got to think globally.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking globally, sustainability is, if you think about today where sustainability is high on the agenda, it's also drip fed to us through media by the companies that are the biggest culprits to causing sustainability. Don't forget, if you think of the food industry globally, it's owned by 4 corporations, control the entire planet worth of food. Do you think they want to give that up? Not a hope. So when it comes to, this is where the phrase greenwashing comes in, when it comes to actually sustainability and practices, they actually drip feed into us as consumers what they think we should know to continue to buy their products.
Oh my goodness. So
you got to remove yourself from, I think when you're looking at something, you got to have an open mind. You got to really remove yourself from everything that you know, and look at it from a totally different angle. And then, as I said, depending on what you're passionate about, it can be everything, or climate change, local food, better soil, better farming. So none of that is readily available.
Yes.
Like when I investigate something, I could be months doing it, because I really have to deep dive into finding the information I need, because it's almost hidden. That kind of way.
Yeah.
So,
on purpose. By what you said. Those 4.
Yeah. So you really have to deep dive into it. So then, what you're being told is a bit of clever marketing and the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't get down to the root problems.
So there's a checklist. Within the checklist, if you were to say, how would I start? Simply, the checklist, choose one area, bring that area into your menu design and planning. And then it's baby steps, isn't it? It's stacking those positive changes within it.
Yeah.
And I think that's an issue, isn't it? We get so overwhelmed when we ask people to do something as productive as this, because there's so many reasons we must do it. It's not a need, it's a must. That if we can start really simply, we can bring us and our team with us.
Exactly. And you're right. It's about doing it in a way that you're not going to be overwhelmed, and do it in a way that you can control the parts you're doing and understand why you're doing it, so you don't get overwhelmed, because you really want to achieve the goal. So set yourself time to do it.
Yes.
Like, if it's going to take you a year, 2 years to change out a kitchen that you might work in to what you want it to be, allow it to be that time, so that everyone's on board and everyone understands. You need people to understand why you're making decisions around food in an industry or even at home, so that they get it. You know what I mean? Like, and we don't know enough. It's so difficult. And then there's so many layered questions. I had a discussion the other day when we were talking about the underselling of food within supermarkets, the connection, where supermarkets will take a hit on the food they sell, they'll make profit elsewhere to below cost selling, to drive footfall, and the effects that has on farms and so on and the whole lot. But when you deep dive into why these things happen, there's a multi-layer of reasons why it happens, and a lot of it actually comes back to us as consumers are causing the problem, because we demand food at that price. And then there's an argument, well, to value food, we should sell it at its true value. But then my question was, if you're selling it as true value, you're making that food will not be accessible to everybody, because not everyone can afford it. So how do you make food accessible to everybody and also be at its true value, where farmers now aren't shutting up shop every day of the week because it's no longer a viable industry, it's heavily subsidized because they don't make money on it, supermarkets have lost the connection to food. So it's complex.
It is.
It's very, very complex, and that's where you have to remove yourself the human side to it, you know, emotional side to it, and really look at the facts and make those decisions.
Step away from influence, isn't it?
100% of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the influence is greenwashing.
Yeah.
And you gotta take everything you hear with a pinch of salt and look at it yourself.
Yes.
Really do.
Put time aside.
Put time aside. If you really want to achieve these goals, be your own investigator as to what caused the problems. And I started this journey a long time ago, and what I thought was one way to look at things, the further I deep dived into it, the further I saw what I thought was the right choice to make would cause further problems. So it's like that. Like if you sell food, if the answer was to make food to connect to the value of food, you need to sell food. Food needs to be more expensive. What about the people that already can't afford food? You know, then the food is not accessible to everybody, and good nutritional food is not accessible to everybody, and along comes more processed foods and so on, which is worse for your health and also worse for the environment. Yeah. So it's multi-layered. There's a lot of
It's just broken.
It's an entire broken food system globally.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what has to be addressed, is how food is accessible to everybody, no matter where you are on this planet. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when I'm talking food, I'm talking good, nutritious food. Yeah. And that's the problem. People don't have access to it. Yeah. 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 Wow. That's deep.
That is. Thanks for bringing us with you. No, don't apologise. This is what we need to hear. You know, this is a huge part of what we do on a daily basis without realising or tuning into.
Absolutely.
One thing that you are passionate about is sourcing food locally. How critical is the role of locally sourced food in the food system?
It's huge. It can change an entire food system by how we buy our food. But you also have to ask the question of what is local food. Because when we started this journey many years ago, I thought I need to define what local food is. So, and this might sound a bit stupid, but some people, be it at home, be it in the catering industry, whatever, hospitality, whatever, local food may have different meanings. So local food to some people might mean I'm buying off the local veg man who lives on the road. But all his veg is imported from Europe. Yes. But he's local. That's not local food. That's what I mean by you have to define what local food is. Local food is food that's grown and produced within your community. But then you can't just buy local food for the sake of buying local food if it's not up to par, if it's not the product. For purpose. Exactly. Yeah. So you really have to zoom in or loom in on what is local. And to me, there's many different areas of local. So when I talk about local in terms of vegetables and grains, local to me is the island of Ireland. Because that's lovely. Because different parts of Ireland grow different crops. You know what I mean? You know, so it's not like, you know, I need 15 different types of vegetables from a menu, you know what I mean, at the moment. We're in Dublin today, I can't get all them within Dublin. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I gotta think of the island of Ireland. But then when I break down into like meat and so on like that, and dairy and all, I can break that down more local. You know what I mean? So you really have to define local food. Local food is so important. It's what grows communities. It what invests back into the communities. The more, and there's always a thing, a lot of feedback I get is, oh, it's more expensive to buy a local carrot. Is it really? And this is back to the supermarket thing, you know what I mean? So when you have that disconnect to the price of food and you're buying a bag of imported carrots, there's 10 carrots in a bag, I've seen them as cheap as 80 cents, you know what I mean? You because you've no connection to that, you have no problem if you have 3 or 4 left over in the fridge and you throw it out. But if you're paying a little bit extra, which I also believe the more we buy, the more the price, you know, stabilizes. You have that connection to it, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, hang on, like I work hard to be able to buy food. I'm not in the habit now of throwing it out. Yeah. You know what I mean? And this goes for our industry as well as at home. You know, so our industry, when you talk about sustainability, it has to be financially sustainable. Yeah. That's the main. If you're not financially sustainable, the rest is out the window anyway, because you can't afford within business to do anything. So you have to connect to your waste through different eyes, through the chef's eyes around, you know, if you're the head chef, you're looking at your profit margins, your GP, you know, how you're buying. But also there's the environmental side of it all, which over the long term pays dividends in terms of your customer base and what you're doing, because lots more people want to support businesses that are being truly sustainable. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Honesty and integrity.
Exactly.
Whereas really fraud and deception is a massive issue right now. where certain people like yourself and what you do, you've stepped fully away from any of that in order to go down that fully transparent, honest route.
Yeah, and you know
Through
what?
training and education.
Through training and education, and it upsets people. My journey can upset people on the way, but I don't mean that's the point. I suppose if you say, what is it you do? Yes, I'm a chef, and yes, food space is a you know, it's a business, you know, that has to survive financially as well. But I also see what we do as being a disruptor in the marketplace and going, do you know what, guys, we can all do better. Food space, don't get me wrong, is not like 100% tick the box, we're brilliant. We have so much more to do. We're on a journey. That journey takes time, and we're allowing that time to do it so that we can do it right and make sure the decisions we make, we've really investigated and we know finally it's the right decision. And things change. You know, what was good 6-7 years ago when we started is not applicable anymore. So it's never going tick a box, move on. It's going back over what we've done previously and going, does that still fit into where we want to go on our journey? And not necessarily it does. There's a lot of things we've done 6 years ago that we've also changed again. Because we're not happy with it today. So it's
which is the essence of business.
Exactly.
That level of internal growth has to happen in order for everything else to work. So reflection. Huge.
Absolutely. And not being afraid to be your own critic and go, that's not right. You know, that doesn't make sense. Yes, you brought it. You made this change a couple of years ago.
Best intentions.
It doesn't make sense now. So stop it.
You
know what I mean? Don't be afraid to criticize yourself and go, actually.
I can do better. I now know better. Which is everything.
And that's where the educating part is. The longer I'm doing, like we all know within the food business, the brilliant thing about food business is you learn something new every day, no matter how long you're in the business. Every day is like a first day. I'm over 30 years in this industry, and I still learn every single day. And so as you learn, don't be afraid to make the changes that you might have changed before. Don't be afraid to change again. You know, as you learn more.
Which is fabulous. And then sharing.
Sharing is massive.
Open sharing.
If you're in your silo, that's great for you, but that's not going anywhere in terms of sustainability, definitely. You know, it's not changing anything.
This is wonderful. Have you noticed a greater awareness amongst customers of what is a sustainable food practice versus what is not, compared to 10 years ago?
That's a great question. I have hugely, but the most notable changes are the simple everyday changes that probably don't take a lot to change. And what I mean by that is there's simple things about, you know, I'm going to have a keep cup, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to have tote bags, and reduce my plastic that way. I'm going to buy more products, you know, in supermarkets that are less plastic, you know what I mean, more around glass or aluminium or whatever can be recycled in this country. And that has definitely been a big shift. But when it comes to food, I think what I've noticed is little changes, like having local food, you know, talking about the season, showing your customers what's in season here in Ireland at the moment, and all is great. And that changes a lot of what they bring home. You know, like if you have this time of year, you're coming in to say wild garlic, or you're still in the middle of beetroot season. People are influenced by what you're saying in the restaurant, and they look for Irish beetroots or, you know, whatever in the supermarket. Those little changes are great changes, they're very simple changes. But when you go down to the rabbit hole of looking into corporations and their carbon footprint and the problems they create, and when you call them out, it's a bit, people are a bit nervous about it, and people are a bit like, whoa, that's a bit step too far maybe for now. So it's kind of like, you know, there's comfortable, easy changes people make, and people are a lot more aware about it, and that's brilliant. And they're a lot more conscious about it and want to know more. So they're a bit like sponges, you know, they're going, okay, but I also need to know more about it. And then sometimes we deep dive into so many subjects that we kind of unearth this whole huge problem. And when we talk about that, people can be uncomfortable about it. You know, because you're asking people to, in some ways, to break a habit of a lifetime. That's not easy.
And when you back it up with real life examples that tug at the heart, because that's what you guys do really well in food space, isn't it? Because you don't make a change and not talk about it.
And we don't dress it up to be, like, if something's really bad, we call it out for what it is, and we show people how bad it is, and we show people the effects it has, because I think sometimes we need that to connect to the problem. You know what I mean? Rather than going, oh, well, there's a bit of this and a bit of that, or, you know, in a lot of cases, we spoke this before, like the decisions we make here affect the other side of the planet. And in a lot of ways, we're not engaged to what's going on the other side of the world, even though what we do today is affecting them more than us in terms of climate change and all that. it's about calling that out as well and showing people, you know what I mean, how and what we do in our everyday lives around not just food, but you know, fast fashion and plastics and everything as well really doesn't affect us as much yet.
Yeah.
It's starting to. We see different weather patterns and unusual throughout Europe at the moment, but nowhere near how it's affected underdeveloped countries on the other part of the world. And a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about what goes on because we don't see it every day.
Because we switched off.
We switch off to it,
Yeah.
Because it's not in our face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not something we experience.
Separated ourselves.
We separate
from
ourselves.
it. Yeah.
And I'm trying to bring that connection back.
Yeah.
You know.
Forever bridging gaps.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So people are a bit more aware. And look, I'm not saying that what we do and what we talk about and what we show people is going to change the world. But like if there's 10 people in the room and I can influence one of them to make a change, job done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
You know what I mean? I'm not naive enough.
They go on and influence.
I'm not
Beautiful.
naive enough to think that I'm going to change everyone's view.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I know I'm not that naive, and I know that's actually never going to happen.
Yeah.
But if a handful of people can do it, and they, as you said, they go on to do more,
Yeah.
and they go on to change and talk more, all of a sudden there's a ripple effect.
Like-minded people follow and find like-minded people.
Exactly.
So it's beautiful to think then
Yeah.
to converse in the right company is a powerful
It
place
is.
to be
Absolutely.
in.
Absolutely. And then there's also the flip side of that as well is I talk a lot on food with people that are really causing the problems, you know, are planning more problems about that. And sometimes to really make change, you have to be in a room where everyone disagrees with you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Can
you know what I mean?
Can you tell us the hats that you wear?
Yeah, so
Because we haven't spoken about that. Who is Conor Spacey and how many hats do you wear?
this is a lot.
And they're all under the one umbrella, which
They
is
are,
beautiful.
they are in fairness.
Yeah.
I suppose, look, this is something I've been passionate about before I even knew what sustainability was. You know what I mean? Like I'm going back, I'm 30 years in the business.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I remember writing about local food and the importance of not wasting food. The word sustainability wasn't in my vocabulary. To me, this is food. This is a food system.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to go the route we're going? So the food space is the day-to-day business. It's a fantastic team, and we're a work-based catering service in effect. So basically, we work with like-minded clients where we deliver these food programs, but on the ethos of what we do.
Yeah.
Right across Ireland, and now we're in the UK now as well. We launched in the UK a couple of months ago. So and we've further growth there. So we're kind of growing rapidly over the last few years, but in a way that we can control. And also when working with clients like that are like-minded, you know what I mean? So there's that end of it.
Finding each other.
Yeah, and looking to achieve the same goals. Yeah. And then the other end of it is I have been involved with an organisation. It's a non-profit organisation called the Chefs Manifesto, and that is across 110 countries at the moment. It's a community of chefs right across the planet who are all working towards the same goals in terms of a better planet. You know what I mean? For everybody. And it makes sense that as chefs, we can really have an influence on how the food system works because we're the middle people. Like we spoke about earlier, we have this pot of money, a bag of money here that we buy our ingredients with.
Yeah.
So openly knowingly how you're spending that money is important, and also using your food to influence the diners and customers you have to talk about what a perfect sustainable plate looks like and why, you know what I mean? And so the Chef's Manifesto was built on the Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 of these goals. And the thing is, when you deep dive into each goal has sub-goals.
Wow.
So if you were to take the actual 17 goals in their entirety, including sub-goals, it's a book this thick.
Yeah. Wow.
So to hand that to somebody and say, read that, they're not going to.
Yeah.
Like especially in chef terms, you're going to hand this, this huge book about the SDGs and the sub-goals, and each sub-goal is how to reach the end goal. So the idea of Chef's Manifesto is to take all that information and break it down into 8 thematic areas, 8 very simple areas that chefs can concentrate on to make their food system within their kitchens, restaurants, cafes, whatever it might be, a sustainable food system, and it goes into everything. You know what I mean? So it's really cool, and you learn this community. We constantly learn off each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're not just thinking within your own silo. Yeah. Like I'm not thinking about here in Ireland. I'm thinking about food systems across the planet for the first time ever. Because you're connecting with chefs across the planet who all have different problems.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
And different solutions.
Yeah.
And so you're taking local problems, but you're looking at them globally. It's back to what I was saying about
Yeah.
food is global.
And that open dialogue.
That open dialogue,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely brilliant. And
Safe
it gives
space.
us, and it gives us a voice. So we've been involved in many talks and forums and programs where it gives us a voice with politics, with policymakers, you know, with loads of great NGOs who all want to make these changes. And all of a sudden you have this diverse people around the table coming from very different backgrounds, looking to achieve the same goals, but it's how we get there. And so the Chefs Manifesto has allowed us to have these voices at these tables.
To sit in those boardrooms.
Yeah.
With these incredibly influential people
Yeah.
who may make decisions based on their own information. And so you're in a position to educate.
To talk about what we know about
at
the
a
food
global
system,
level.
At a global level. And see, the thing about the Chefs Manifesto is, and you can go to chefsmanifesto.com and you'll see the 8 thematic areas, you'll see everything that's going on globally, everything is there. While it is the Chefs Manifesto, and that's our background towards it, it can be applied to anything. It could be the Farmers Manifesto, it could be I'm at Home Manifesto. These 8 thematic areas can be taken and used in any type of business. You know what I mean? Like, they're not specifically, oh, well, you're not a chef, so you can't. It doesn't work. Like, yes, it's for chefs. It's written by chefs for chefs, but it can apply to any
area of your life.
You know what I mean? So it's cool. So it keeps, and then what I learned there helps me make the choices of where the changes we want to make within food space. So it's kind of bringing the SDGs into the world of catering that we do, and not in a way that we're just like really deep diving into it. You know what I mean? And really seeing the effects not only locally but globally before we make decisions about where we want to go and why we're doing something. So it's a big Pandora's box.
But it's beautiful to think. So all of that decision making empowers every other decision that you make in order to bring the product to your like-minded customers who choose you as their solution, which means you're on how many plates and on any one day in Ireland? How many, as in
thousands,
the education of this?
I mean, before COVID, we produced 2 million meals a year. So
in Ireland.
So, and we're getting back to those numbers, you know, over the next few months. We're fully back open and so on. So it's a huge amount of food. You know,
and a huge amount of education.
And responsibility.
You
know what I mean? So, and that's where I think it's trying to get chefs to see as a responsibility as chefs. It's no longer. To me, it's no longer about just pick up the phone and ordering food for your menu because you want to create a dish that you like, that has the flavour you want and might present in a way you want. It's more about connecting the dots back to the growers, to what's going on, to what's in the ground, to what's ready to be harvested. You know what I mean? And the food that's being imported, where's that coming from? How's that working? How's that being grown? What seasons are they working off? So it's really about being responsible for how you spend your money. Big time.
Wow. It's incredible. It's powerful. No, but it's beautiful because it's then culture driven, isn't it? Which is what is absolutely needed right now in order for any of this to work right. It's the culture and the environment in which we work. So that level of internal investment in an individual and in a team can create positive change. Big time, and it is. But as we said at the beginning, like it's a journey. If people try to achieve so much in such short time, they're set up for failure. You really need to think about your journey and take your steps towards achieving them and how you're going to achieve them, and bridge the gaps and really deep dive into how can you achieve something that is going to work long term. You know what I mean? It's not just something I'm going to try and if it fails. Exactly. So never be hard on yourself. You know, the fact that you're thinking about it, the fact that you're looking at solutions is half the journey. You know, that kind of way. And celebrate the little wins.
Absolutely.
Because it's that level of stacking that'll keep you going, keep driving you on.
Big time.
This is fabulous. So that's Conor in a nutshell, his umbrella. Okay. What do you think is the biggest obstacle to overcome in contract catering in terms of creating a more sustainable food system? So what you've achieved, other people will look on and go, holy moly.
And that's, you know what, there's a lot of answers to that question. And I suppose the biggest thing, especially in contract catering, is the procurement systems that are used within it. And it's a bit like a food system. So a food system, as we were talking about earlier, our current food system dates back to the 1800s. And there was 2 billion people on the planet. Now there's 10 billion, the system doesn't work. So the procurement systems that are used in many, not just contract trading, large chains like hotels, fast food, high street chains and all that, they have these procurement systems that are based on best price wins. Regardless of the product, the carbon footprint of the product, how it was grown, where it came from, it's best price wins. That system is a failed system because those systems is what delivers the broken food system.
Yes.
So, but they're still used today.
Yes. Because of pressure.
Because of pressure. Because of things being price driven.
Yes.
So, and don't forget, when things are price driven, that doesn't necessarily just come from a chain or a hotel chain or a contract caterer going, we must sell a main course at €3. It comes from us as individuals looking to buy food that cheap. So you see what I mean? Like it's
we're voting
by our
buying.
pocket.
Yeah.
And the cheaper we as consumers want the food, the more the procurement system has to buy food price driven and not sustainable driven.
Drive it down.
It's all about cost.
Yeah.
And that system is what drives a broken food system.
Yes.
And that's a system that has to change. But in food space, we've been very lucky because we're part of a bigger company, but because we're new within the catering company, we were able to start without an old procurement system.
Yes.
So for us, it was always about, buying the best ingredients, both here in Ireland, on the island of Ireland, but also what's coming into Ireland, what has to come into Ireland, and how do we spend our money responsibly. And then the funny thing is, do we pay more for our ingredients? Some lines of ingredients we do, and others we don't. So if you look at the bottom line, we're probably not paying any more than the broken price driven, over the like you might look at a chip. For instance, there's always a huge thing with me is that so many here in Ireland, I'm not talking caterers, I'm talking right across our food system. So much of our chickens, right, come from Holland. They're imported. They're heavily subsidised over there, so they come in here at half the price of an Irish chicken. So we only use Irish chicken, and many people are moving towards that, which is great. So you might say, well, you're spending almost double for your chicken ingredients, so that makes you more expensive. Well, not necessarily, because when I'm buying my vegetables and all in season and my fruits in season, they're actually better quality, better for you, better tasting, and the same, sometimes not even cheaper than imported, because they're in season at their best. So you balance your books in a different way. It's not always about best price. You know what I mean?
And how you utilise the ingredients.
Yes.
The less waste.
The waste is huge.
Yeah.
Like our industry is huge, and
automatic chop, peel, whatever
chop, peel in the bin.
Yeah.
And I automatic. Yeah. And we're trained as chefs. We're trained that way because we want the best of the vegetable, shape, appearance, or the meat has to be trimmed in a certain way, so it look a certain way, and this is where problems occur. So if you think about a profit and loss sheet that you're either doing it yourself in your own business or your accountants give you at the end of the month, and on that within the food business is always a wastage percentage, and depending on whether you're a cafe or say you're a big hotel doing events and weddings, that wastage percentage grows depending on your volume exactly. And I've seen it in some cases as high as 15%. I think the average is around 10%. Some places as probably around 5-4%. So if you think about what you're allowing there, you say it was 10%, right? So you're saying that 10% of all my money I'm throwing in the bin. So that's like saying, I have €1,000 in my pocket, here's €100 note, let's go throw that into the bin.
Yeah.
And I go, would you do that? No, you wouldn't.
No.
So why are we doing it? You know what I mean? So in monetary terms,
totally
switched off. It makes no sense. So then when you start to control the waste you have, especially production waste, which is the waste we create as chefs in our trimmings and our vegetable peels, our fruit skins, and everything that we throw into the bin around production waste, that can be controlled. Plate waste is a different thing. People measure plate waste, look at plate waste. Plate waste is obviously the plates coming back in. So that's around your portion sizes. And why it's very important to look at that. Yeah, stuff that customers are going, that's great. It's never eaten, so why is it on the plate?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or why is so much food come back every day? Because our portions are too big or whatever. That has to be looked at, but that's not the huge problem. The huge problem is what we buy
in the back door.
Comes in the back door. And what we throw out. And also its production. So much food is lost between the farm and the back door. So you got to look at that as well. You know, if you're going to do this right, do it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really look at what you can control and look at all aspects of the food and how it travels. and then you're truly getting into reducing your food waste. Like, we do a lot on it. We're constantly coming up with new ideas because we're constantly see different waste streams. You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, people know stuff we run around our fermentation class and so on. That's only one area of waste. You know what I mean? There's other areas of waste within kitchens that we're constantly addressing, constantly coming up with ideas. So to be truly zero waste, it's kind of not achievable. But to actually look at your waste and bring it down, like, to virtually zero is achievable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, as we spoke, do it in stages, address different problems and bring your team with you on that journey, because if you're just one chef in a kitchen looking at waste and the rest of your team are
You're an island.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta make a program about it and really work on it and work in different areas. So we look at everything. We look at absolutely everything from the farm to our door to our plate and everything in between.
The success of business for me is being in a position where you can take an aerial view of your business.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you just did there with that full circle, full cycle. It's
Just look
from the
at
start,
everything.
the middle and the end and back again. And it's, as you said earlier, every day you wake up, you learn something new. So what you learn today within that system can change. So it's that reflection piece as well has to come in.
And you're right, and like decisions we made 2 years ago, we're changing again.
Yeah.
Because things move.
Yeah.
Things change.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not good enough to tick a box and go, well, I've done that, what's next?
Yeah.
That will always have to be monitored as well, whatever that was.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it changes, things change, and you got to really be open-minded enough to go, to be critical of yourself in a way that pushes you to do more and never be satisfied and going, oh, this is wonderful. It's not wonderful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Problems are out there, and in fact, when we look at food without being a downer, things are getting worse progressively. You know what I mean? Like, when we look at the SDGs and the Sustainable Development Goals, the target is to achieve them by 2030.
Yeah.
Things were getting better. Numbers, like, you know, towards hunger, we're dropping in a whole lot. And not so much COVID, actually. In fact, what's driven numbers back up is conflict. So, you know, war on this planet has driven more people into hunger than even climate change at the moment.
Wow.
So where food is now a weapon.
Oh my God.
So this one is when I say about talking about food globally, you've got to look at everything. Can you control a war? No, you can't. But you've got to be open to the idea of, you know, problems are getting worse. Why are the problems getting? Understand why problems are getting worse. Why is there more hunger on the planet today than there was 10 years ago? In fact, the numbers tell us that it's through conflict, where food is used as a weapon, that has driven more people in towards hunger. And climate change is catching that. But it's not the biggest driver yet. So it's about understanding different problems.
For sure,
That's
that's a
very
huge
deep,
eye opener. Well, I wouldn't expect anything less. Yeah. Conor Spacey. Yeah, here you have it. And meaningful, isn't it?
It is.
Fully.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to end on this. What is the strangest or funniest incident you've seen in your business?
Oh, Jesus, so many.
Oh.
What's the strangest or funniest? I think with this now. Oh yeah, I can't name it. But this to me was funny. Chefs will get this, I presume, chefs that watch it, it was very funny. So it's not strange but funny. So I go back years and years ago, a restaurant I was working in, really cool restaurant, and lots of regulars every weekend. You'd be booked out weeks and months in advance, and there's a lot of, you know, celebrity clientele that would expect a better type of service, so on, and a lot of really shrewd businessmen and all this kind of thing, and a lot of regulars that would have the same dish every weekend, right? So anyway, long story short, this guy came in one day, and he used to always get whatever beef was, whatever steak was on, or whatever. He was very traditional on his food and all that. And he goes, you know what, Conor, I was really pushing seafood at the time, and sustainable seafood, and, you know, seafood seasons, like fish that have a season, I mean, people know either. So we used our specials were always based about what landed in boats that day, and that's what was on and so on. And he said, Joe, I want to try something new. What are you going to try? And we had this fish, I think it was John Dory, this is going back a long time ago, that arrived in, and he said, look, it's lovely John Dory, blah, 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 we cook it this way, serve it that and all that. He said, what is John Dory? Explain, if you explain the whole fish. He goes, yeah, you know, I'm going to go for that. I'm going to have that.
Yeah.
And cooked this was lovely, out this went, and within 5 minutes the maitre came back in with it, and she said, look, he he doesn't like this, so he wants to go back to his traditional, what he knows works, give him his steak, whatever way you want. Okay, right, fine. So when I came to give him the bill, the maitre said, well, what do I do? I said, well, you have to charge him for it, like.
Yeah.
You know, you can't not charge him for it.
Yeah.
So I said, charge him for John Dory, and then he had his steak and whatever his guests was having, and so the bill went down, and uproar, you know, this was huge, this was an uproar about, you know, how dare you? I didn't like it, and I'm not paying for it. So I said, look, let's, because he was a regular, I said, let's not make a big fuss about this now.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it later. For now, take it off, we'll deal with it later. I said, but I'll get my point across. So this guy anyway had a chain of news agents and so on. And one day, in the town I was in, and I'm going to give a to people my own then, he was in the shop. I thought, right, I'm going to prove a point here. So I went into the shop, and his confectionery and all was there, and I picked up a chocolate bar. I opened it, I go by, I was like, no, I don't like that. Put it back, picked up the other one, looked at the counter. I said, pay that bar. He goes, you're not paying that bar. I said, yeah, but I didn't like it. He goes, oh my God, he copyrighted. He goes, Conor, I get it. And I said,
oh, brilliant.
I proved my point.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, so that was my funny story.
Which makes sense then. The premise of everything you do in food space is through that education piece. I'm going to give you this for the right reasons. I know what the reasons are. I can't assume you know it now. I'm going to show you and teach you and educate you. I love that.
So I did what he did.
Yeah.
I did. So he opened his eyes, and I took like that, put it back on the counter, and had that, and even the lady was kind of going, what did you just do? I said, I took a bite, I didn't like it, so I just had that.
Oh,
and
what
then
a brilliant full circle.
It hit home.
Yeah. That was a high five moment.
Yeah.
I love it. Conor Spacey, thank you for giving us your very valuable time. I know how busy you are. When you're not here, you're everywhere else. So to catch you and to be able to go through this interview with you on behalf of Ballymilly Foods, huge thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Cheers.